Hey, good Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome in the Volquest podcast. I'm Eric Kane alongside Rob Lewis, Brent Hubbs, and Austin Price. Exterior Home Solutions. This is the Exterior Home Solutions Volquest podcast. Local and trusted since 1999. Give them a call today at 865-524-5888. That's for a free estimate, or visit them online at exteriorhomesolutions.com. Brent Hubbs, it's a busy time right now. We've got basketball full go, recruiting, transfer portal kind of just wrapped up. Spring practice right around the corner. No better place than right now to get everything Tennessee Volunteers than at Volquest.com.
Yeah, absolutely. If you just watch these or listen to these and think that's enough for your Vol fix, you're missing out on a lot of other things at Volquest.com. So we encourage you to keep watching and keep listening, keep subscribing on the YouTube channel and all those things. But we certainly want you to be a part of the Volquest community, participate in all the chats that we have going on, a lot of the discussions that we have going on about a variety of things in Tennessee athletics. And it never closes. The store never closes, and there's always news and lots of things going on. You got a baseball team ranked in the top 10. You got a basketball team in the top 5. You got a football team getting ready to hit the practice field in a little over a month and a half, something like that, with a ton of momentum. So it's a great time to check us out right now.
Are you saying we're the Buckies of On3 fan sites, Hubs?
I'm not a huge Bucky's guy, AP. I mean, but
no, I'm not either. You know this.
I think
we have to stop. It's cool, but I mean, I'm not going there.
I think we are the staple of all things Tennessee athletics. So if you want to know what's going on, then you need to wheel in and be a part of the Volquest family. How's that?
I love it.
I think we're a lot more user friendly than the Buckies in terms of getting in, getting out, getting what you need without having to deal with everybody else. But nonetheless, a lot going on right now. Rob Lewis, Dalton Knecht just continues. What a historic pace he's on right now. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves away from, Thompson Bowling Arena at the Food City Center. Of course, in this little stretch, he's got a 39-point, 25-point Florida and Alabama performance as well. But nonetheless, 32 points on the road at Vanderbilt on Saturday. Tennessee, about a minute and a half left in the first half, trailed by 9, cut it to 5, and Dalton Knecht went off and finished with 32 points. He obviously a huge reason why Tennessee's ranked in the top 5 and a huge reason why Tennessee is 5-1 in SEC play. But this is pretty cool to watch right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, me and Grant, talked about it. We've both written about it. I mean, it gets to the point. I mean, just what do you say? I mean, what more can you come up with when, the guy is, consistently brilliant. I mean, it's not like he's throwing in some outlier performance. I mean, he just keeps doing it again and again and again at a level, that now, we're a third of the way through conference play and he's averaging, 28 points a game. I mean, that's, it's a little bit of a small sample size, but you're a third of the way through your 18-game conference schedule, and he's threatening to average 30 points a game. Is averaging 30 points a game on the road. I mean, it's like I wrote today in the 3-2-1. I mean, fans should enjoy it. I mean, I don't think anybody's taking it for granted, but it is really historical. I mean, I've been doing this a long time. However, you've been around it for a long time. I mean, I've not seen anything like it. I mean, Grant Williams had some big time moments, on some really good teams. 2-time SEC Player of the Year, but I don't, he didn't have a run like what we're seeing from Knecht right now.
Well, I mean, the thing to me that stands out about him, Rob, is just I've not seen a Tennessee player be able to take the basketball from any position on the floor and get a shot and get his shot. Now, listen, they ran stuff for Grant Williams. I mean, they dropped him to the post. He caught some baseline stuff. But I'm saying from half court on, if he's got the ball in his hands, he can find himself a shot, whether it's a jump shot in the lane, whether he's backing the guy down, whether he's finishing at the rim with either hand. I'm dumbfounded, Rob, by his ability to get. Once the ball crosses midcourt, that if you get him the ball, he's going to be able to get a quality shot, not a heave, but he's going to be able to get a quality shot off in 30 seconds of a shot clock. I don't know the last Tennessee player that has been able to do that in school history.
I think
that stands out to me.
I mean, to me, it's a guy he's really similar to, and it's Allen Houston, and
Yep.
I wasn't around, obviously, Allen, like I'm around Dalton every day. I was a kid. I was, watched him from afar. but watched him a lot. And I mean, I think they're really similar. I think Dalton's stronger. I think if you look at his shoulders, he's a more physical guy. But as far as scoring at all three levels, and doing it at a high level, I think he compares pretty favorably to Allen Houston, which is a bold statement. And I will say this: I know we're going to talk about it, and I think there's some recency bias, but I think people forget how good Allen Houston was. I think some of the younger people just don't know. I mean, he played on some
horrible teams,
and still got it done. I mean, I think that's an aspect of his career that should not be forgotten. That you look at the kind of guys Dalton's playing with, in my opinion, the best point guard in the SEC. He's playing, with a legit big man inside that other teams have to worry about in Jonas, and in some really crafty veterans in Santiago, in Josiah, and just a lot of complementary pieces on this team that Allen Houston never came close to enjoying playing with.
Hey, don't you besmirch the name of Lang Wiseman or Corey Allen, Rob Lewis. Now, I agree. I think Rob hits the nail on the head. His ability to elevate and just go straight up with a shot is very similar to Allen Houston. Like, especially in that mid-range game. That three he made from the corner the other night off the inbounds. I mean, I literally was sitting at Little Joe's in Farragut after my kid had played her last game with the West Bearden Basketball League for the year. And I was like, come out of my chair. I was like, oh my God. Because, you'd seen him just kept making shots. And all of a sudden he makes this one from the corner and he's down on the ground and, it was ridiculous. And then the other one for me was the one when Tennessee was up 11. The game was not in doubt. But he kind of just created and made that one just past the foul line to go back up 13. That was another one where you're just like, good grief. I mean, that one really reminded me of Allen Houston. Like, especially if you go and just get on YouTube, watch some of those Tennessee highlights from the late 80s, early 90s. And, I mean, it was really, really impressive. Just the only time that he struggled at all during this stretch, Rob, was when he was trying to get 40 and he was forcing it. You know what I mean? Like, it's the only time that he's looked mortal.
Or at the foul line on Saturday. That's really that's one of the craziest things. I mean, I'm just kind of picking fun at him a little bit. I mean, for a guy that was so brilliant in every other aspect and is, an 80% foul shooter, for him to go one for 4 in a day where he had 32, I thought, was a little bit funny.
What feels bizarre to me, Rob, is or not bizarre, but I guess it's a credit to him, is you look up and he's run off 15 in a row or he's got, 30 points, and you don't feel like he's forced anything.
Exactly.
It doesn't, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of times you get a guy who puts up a lot of points and he's taking a lot of shots to put up a lot of points, right? It feels like he's forcing it every possession. It doesn't feel that way, which I think is a credit to him. It's obviously a credit to his teammates, as you mentioned, that they have on this team. There's depth there. But am I wrong in saying it doesn't feel forced? Is that a fair statement, Rob?
Absolutely, it's a fair statement. He's shooting 55% from the field in SEC play. That's fine. And the kid from Texas A&M, name's escaping, the point guard, Baldwin. I mean, that's a high volume shooter. I mean, that's the second leading scorer in the conference at 24 points a game, and he's taken, a million shots to get there. Wade Taylor, excuse me. And he, for instance, let me see if I can find this stat real quick. He's taken four fewer shots than Dalton on the year, and is shooting. The shooting percentage is ridiculous. How much better? I mean, for Dalton to be shooting 55% at as a perimeter player, as Tennessee's number one option. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, he's fifth in the SEC, and you look at the 4 guys above him. It's Tolu Smith, it's Jonas Adu, it's Johnny Broome from Auburn. I mean, it's all big guys who are doing their work in the paint, doing their work around the rim, which is how that stat always stacks up. And for him to be there, fifth in the league in overall shooting percentage is just sick. I mean, it's sick.
Rob, why has nobody been able to? I don't want to say shut him down, but why are teams not able to slow him down? Is that Dalton? Is that his teammates? Is that Rick schematically? Why is he, as Jerry Stackhouse said after the game, a tough cover? Which
I think the first one, in my opinion, I mean, this is my humble opinion, and there's some other basketball people out there that can probably break it down a lot more technically than me, but the ability to score at all three levels. I mean, you can't overplay anything. I mean, he's got to counter. I mean, you can't crowd him because he can drive it. I mean, you can't lay off it because he'll absolutely, drop a 23-footer on you. I mean, you can't overplay him to drive because he can pull up. And then I really think, the teammates help a lot. I mean, you never, you're afraid to give extra help in the post, because of Jonas. You can space the floor with somebody on the wing, whether it's Santiago, whether it's Jordan Gady, when those guys are hitting shots. Zakai, just fantastic at the way he can spread defenses and find creases and just create space for people. So I mean, I think the way the team is constructed really helps him. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's just Dalton. But I think teams, Tennessee does have enough to where if you sell out to really try and take him out or make his catches tough or deny him the ball. I mean, they have other things that can really hurt you.
Let me ask you this, Rob, and so much of this is TBD, and I understand that. You're working your way through the conference slate. You got the conference tournament. You got, obviously, the NCAA tournament to come, and where Tennessee finishes, and when it's all said and done, will very much play a hand in this. But you got Dalton Knecht, who's here for a season. And some of these Tennessee greats we've been talking about over the last couple of minutes, I mean, they were here for a long time. How is Tennessee fans going to remember Dalton Knecht? And, I mean, is he going to keep up this run that he's on right now, or will he come back down to earth a little bit and have some 20-point games in there that's still really, really good? I mean, I think depending on where Tennessee finishes in the tournament when it's all said and done will dictate how, Dalton Knecht is thought of in Tennessee lore, really, even though he's only been here 1 year.
No question. And I think a good comparison, and this is premature, but, if Tennessee wins the SEC, has a nice postseason run, I think Hendon Hooker is a really good comparison for Dalton. I mean, Hendon would have been here 1 year longer, but, basketball, you also play, 30-something games as opposed to 20-something. So, I mean, with what Dalton is doing, it's talk crazy. If he were to lead Tennessee to their first Final Four in school history, he'd be an icon. I mean, even if he did just play here for 1 year, I mean, he would be an absolute hero to this fan base. But as it is, I mean, I think he's going to be remembered really fondly. It's going to be different than the one and done guys that have been here in the past, like Kennedy Chandler, Keon Johnson, Jaden Springer. But because of what he's done, because of the team success, those teams. Kennedy was part of a team that won the SEC tournament, but had a disappointing exit in the big dance. But I think Dalton is going to go down as I think he's going to be remembered in a way that we haven't seen, kind of one of these transfer guys be remembered outside of Hendon. And that was a little different again because of the 2-year stretch.
Yeah, and listen, I'll give Dalton credit. I mean, it's genuine. You can tell in his response. But I mean, he loves being at Tennessee, and why should he not? Right? I mean, it's going real well for him right now. But I mean, the way he's embraced the fan base, the way obviously they've fallen in love with him. He talked about how the spring football game was a big deal for him when he was going through this process. That's part of the reason why he committed to Tennessee and didn't go see North Carolina and Kentucky and Indiana, other schools that were interested in him. I mean, he's saying all the right things while, when he's signing all the autographs and he's enjoying the moment, which is only going to help his lure and his love affair with the Tennessee fan base.
And he's humble. I mean, he's humble. AP, I mean, you got to sit down with him, a few weeks ago. I mean, I've been around him a lot. I mean, he's just not that interested in talking about himself. I mean, not in a rude way at all. I mean, he just doesn't. He's just not as impressed with himself as everybody else is.
Yeah, his actions on the court when he it's almost him off the floor and him on the floor are kind of two different people, right? Like, I mean, he plays to the crowd especially when he gets in one of those moments where he's hot and he's making 20-footers, 30-footers, and he's, raising the arms and stuff. But like off the floor, he was I would almost call him shy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so, you're right. I mean, he does, to me, he's a very similar, now way more impactful. Not that McAllen Castles didn't have an impact, because he did. He got 5 touchdowns or whatever it was. But it was more the fact it's just kind of coming from where they both came from, UC Davis, Northern Colorado, and then, just enjoying being in this environment, in this arena. Like both smile a lot. Like like to me, they're very similar in personality. Again, Dalton's way bigger impact because he controls the team's fate in a lot of ways, but you know, still very similar and very similar kids, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and I think something that tells you a lot about what kind of a kid Dalton is, or young man Dalton is that, and he's a great teammate. I mean, a guy coming in and making the impact that he on a veteran team, and he came into a veteran team, and Dalton Knecht is the biggest story in the SEC, and one of the biggest stories in the country. I mean, everybody's talking about him, and that definitely would have the potential to be disruptive in a lot of locker rooms or a lot of teams, and man, I mean, that's just not been the case at all. I mean, he is super well liked, super well respected, and again, that's I don't think that would be the case in a lot of places. That tells you something about Tennessee's culture, but it also tells you something about what kind of a teammate he is. I mean, his teammates are genuinely happy for the success.
I mean, that shows whenever they take over the media scrum and Jonas Adu's asking him when he's going to score 40 and stuff, right? I mean, that just shows how much his teammates adore him.
And it shows you how Zakai is looking at him, like a heat-seeking missile when he, when connects in the middle of that heater at Vanderbilt. I mean, everybody on his team is trying to get him the ball, and it's. Yeah. I mean, you can see it clearly. That's again, it would not be all kumbaya like it is in a lot of places.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to give credit to his teammates. I think you also give credit to just the work ethic of what Dalton Knecht does and how much time he puts in the gym. I mean, he didn't come in and say, "Hey, I'm here, I've arrived," right? Like he just came in, put his head down, and went to work. And great players want to play with great players, and I mean, I think he's earned everything along the way. And this basketball team is smart enough to know that what Dalton Knecht can help them do at the end of the year is something that potentially they haven't been able to do before. And I think that it is a combination of all those things. And it's a credit to all those parties involved. I mean, he's exactly what everybody AP wants the transfer portal to be, right? Like when you say transfer portal, he's the poster child for the transfer portal. Yeah. It doesn't always work that way, though. But for this case, for Tennessee, it's been the absolute home run of all home runs.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's Jared Verse going from Albany to Florida State or Dalton Knecht going from Northern Colorado to Tennessee, I mean, like, you're exactly right. I mean, there's some really neat stories out there about guys who couldn't go at this level coming out of high school. Even in Dalton's case, I mean, he went JUCO. I mean, again, this kid had this weird late growth spurt. I mean, he was like 6'1" as a senior, then 6'3" in JUCO. Now he's 6'6", and just it's a different deal. And again, as good as well as he is playing, to me, what makes this team the ultimate Final Four contender type team for Tennessee is when Jordan Gainey has now found his footing and is out of the slump. And Vescovy is, sticking one from 28 feet the other night like he did at Vanderbilt. Like, when he gets those kind of pieces around him, I mean, I just think they're near impossible to beat. I mean, I know they kind of weren't very good coming out of that week-long stretch in the first half, but they played great defensively the other night in the second half, Rob. And, when you pair him with guys around him, I mean, watch out.
Yeah, I mean, this is, not any kind of grand statement, but I think Tennessee is the team to beat in the SEC Knecht's a big part of it, but he's not the only part. I mean, I just mentioned, I think this guy right here, I think he's playing the best point guard, playing better than any point guard in the league. And you look at the numbers. I mean, we everybody talks about it. Fans have griped about it forever. Tennessee's offense, the last few years has been hit or miss. I mean, the defense has been great, out of sight. And this year, and it's not all Dalton. I mean, Dalton's a huge part of it. But Tennessee in league play is the fourth highest scoring team in the league, 83 points per game. They're also the third best team in the league in scoring defense. Nobody else is even close to that. I mean, like, Kentucky leads the SEC in scoring. They're 13th in scoring defense. Florida is second. They're last in scoring defense. Alabama is third in the league in scoring. They're ninth in scoring defense. I mean, Tennessee's top four in both of those. They're second in the SEC in field goal percentage defense and first in field goal shooting. That's strong, right there. I mean, that's not something you see a lot of for teams to be, the best defensive team or the second best defensive league in terms of being the toughest to make shots on and being the most efficient shooting team. If that keeps up, and Tennessee will run away with this thing. I don't know if it can. I mean, we're 6 games in, but I mean, if they're close, if they lead the league in field goal shooting and are second in field goal per shooting defense, it's gonna be a lot of blowouts.
Obviously, South Carolina beat Kentucky last week, Rob. You know, they beat Missouri over the weekend. Now they, come to Thompson Bowling later tonight. That's a game that, Tennessee will have to, still have to play well to win. South Carolina's playing good basketball. But we talk about Dalton Knecht's legend. If he goes up to Kentucky and puts on a 30-point performance and the Vols win at Rupp, I mean, good grief, this thing is really going to be a powder keg.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm on record. I'm predicting it. I don't know if Tennessee will win the game, but I've got Dalton going for 30+.
And again, he had 24 at Wisconsin, 37 at UNC. He had 28 at Mississippi State, 36 at Georgia. He had 32 at Vanderbilt. I mean, the dude
it's
plays
not exactly
well on the road, Rob. So
it's not exactly going out on a limb to say. I mean, he's averaging what's he averaging on the road? I know you get the 31.
Yeah, it's 31.4 on the road, true road games. The amazing thing about him on the road is he's shooting 62% from the field on the road.
Absurd.
47% from the 3-point line, and he's averaging over 5 rebounds a game. I mean, what he's done on the road, the efficiency he's played with on the road is just I don't know who's done that. I mean, I'm talking about in the league. I mean, that's maybe Shaquille O'Neal type numbers, Rob, but that's again as a post player who just caught it and dunked it a whole bunch, right? Yeah. I mean, who have we seen on scoring from all 3 levels, shooting 62%? In 5 true road games to this point. And I mean, and good places. I mean, we're not talking about 5 road games that are in, places where they've been pretty good through the years, but maybe they're not real good right now. I mean, that Wisconsin win looks better every day. The North Carolina win or loss, but he was terrific in that one. And then what he's doing in the league, we see how hard the road is in this league. It's just crazy right now. Just crazy.
Yeah, so South Carolina
the Georgia win. I'm sorry, Eric. I was going to say the Georgia win looks better and better.
Well, Georgia's going to win a lot of games at home. I mean, Georgia's not bad. I mean, that's a place you're not going to want to play. And for Tennessee to pull that one out after falling behind the way they did because of what Dalton Knecht did, I mean, that's a win that's going to look better as the season goes. I'm not saying it's a quad one and all that, but there are going to be some people who go in Athens, Georgia, and don't come out of there with a win if Georgia stays healthy. That's not a bad basketball team.
No, Georgia would be 5-2 in the league if they'd have held on in the second half of that game.
Yep.
Yeah, South Carolina at home tonight. Then, as we mentioned, at Kentucky on Saturday. That game's going to be a monster one, televised on ESPN. And, of course, we'll have everything Dalton Knecht, Tennessee basketball right here on Volquest.com. Hey, when we come back, On3 rankings, some additions, a newly minted 5-star. What does AP think about that? All that and more right here on the Exterior Home Solutions Volquest podcast.
It's one of those phone calls that you hate to get from your kids. Hey, Dad, a tree fell on my house. Well, we got that call a couple of weeks back from our daughter at her house here, and the first call that I made was to Exterior Home Solutions. The peace of mind that they gave me and us as a family when they came out here and came up with a plan, got us connected with the right people, is absolutely priceless. Use the same people that I use. In that time of need, Exterior Home Solutions.
Exterior Home Solutions, that phone number is 865-524-5888. Give them a call for a free estimate or visit them online at exteriorhomesolutions.com. All right, some updated On 300 rankings, Tennessee signees, where they finished in the latest ones right here. Austin Price, the biggest news is Jordan Ross, a newly minted 5-star, moves up in the On 300.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan Ross dominated both at the Under Armour All-American Game and at the Polynesian Bowl. He was ridiculous coming off the edge in both. Obviously has the length, the size, and if you were Tennessee, Hubbard, you wished he was here. You really wish he was here for spring, but he won't be. And I don't think that's end all be all. You just love to have him in the weight room, for 4 or 5 months before he technically will get here. So, I mean, again, freak athlete and one that as the whole fall went along, I kept telling you, Hubs, man, they should be really happy they have that kid in the boat.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that was good a year ago, okay? I mean, heading into the summer recruiting deal, he was on everybody's board. He was recruited by a lot of big-name schools. he was kind of on the fringe for some of those schools, right? I mean, in June, was he going to be a take at this school or at that school or whatever? And for Tennessee to be able to close that thing out and get it done, they look like geniuses for it, because he made a real jump, I think, Austin, in his play from his junior to his senior year in high school. I just think he played a lot better, and you're seeing that as a result of his rankings. You're seeing what he did in the All-Star game. I think he's just a guy who physically has gotten better. I think mentally he's gotten more locked in, and I think he's got a huge upside for Tennessee. I think that's a really good get for Tennessee, while some schools weren't real sure, right? AP, was he going to be a take here or there? Tennessee went hard, and the reward for that is, I think they're going to get themselves a really good football player.
Yeah, and it's another top 10 player nationally for Josh Heupel, and realistically for Tim Banks and Rodney Garner in the defense. So, this big credit to Coach G, to Coach Chop. They really did a really nice job with Jordan Ross throughout the process, and again, a kid that just continues to just kind of blossom and bloom. And then you see the dunk in the basketball game the other day. I mean, it's just like, kid literally is just a freak athletically.
Eric, before we get to the other rankings deal, I find this a little bit interesting, because over the weekend we had the 3-year anniversary of Josh Heupel's hire, right? And
Yep.
They did all the social media stuff and everything. When he was hired 3 years ago, I think we all just assumed, because of the pedigree, but because of what they do on the offensive side, that offensive players around the country would be lining up to come play in this offense. And they've recruited well on offense. Obviously, Nico's very highly regarded. You know, he was the #1 player according to On3. The fact that they've been able to recruit the caliber of player that they've been able to recruit on defense in 3 years, probably, in my opinion, probably doesn't get enough discussion about what they've been able to do on that side of the ball, Austin, whether it's Jordan Ross, whether it's Arian Carter. Obviously, they got the James Pierce thing done, and when nobody else could figure out sort of how to make sure that he was going to be good academically and all those things, I don't know what all happened there, but they've recruited well on the defensive side of the ball, which I think was arguably the biggest question about this staff when they were assembled and Josh Heupel was brought in 3 years ago.
Well, and the one thing he did was surround himself with some veteran defensive coaches, who have coached at the Power 5 level, and I think that goes a long way. I think he's the 4th 5-star defensive kid that Heupel and them have signed. You got Hobbs, Pierce, Arian Carter, and now Jordan Ross. So, that's really impressive. That they continue to recruit at the level they're recruiting at on the defensive side, because you're right. Everybody loves to talk about Heupel and the quarterbacks and the offense. And look, you did point out you got Nico, you got George the other day. Obviously, a nice addition in Merklinger in this.
Mike Matthews is a terrific 5-star player, but real talent. They've recruited well on offense, but I think that was the assumption.
Yeah, you assume that, right? that's that's what everybody thought, and that's your point. That's that it's the did you see them getting 4 5-stars in a 3-year period on defense? Because I can promise you I didn't.
No.
Speaking of Mike Matthews, going back to the offense side of the football, and Polynesian Bowl MVP, making it back-to-back for Tennessee signees. He moved up. He continues to be Tennessee's highest-rated offensive player. Moved those 8 spots. He's a top 40 overall player, 7th highest wide receiver in the class. Mike Matthews, again, kind of like Jordan Ross, AP, really, I wouldn't say he greatly benefited from the All-Star game, because, again, he only moved up 8 spots, but he put on a show, and Tennessee's got a nice one there, Mike Matthews.
Yeah, and again, it's all in what you see as an evaluator, what you don't see. That's not to knock the other. There are other sites that do rankings. They may have a Tennessee player ranked higher than Charles does at a certain spot. Charles may have a Tennessee player ranked higher than another guy. That's going to happen. That's all part of it. But Mike is one that Charles moved up, I think, to 38, overall, just right outside the 5-star range. But again, just a kid that continued to impress. Both he and Staley have had a nice little run here, both in bowl practice and at the All-Star games, that has this staff excited heading into spring practice.
Big movers. Peyton Lewis moved up 60 spots.
He should.
Boo Carter moved up over 50 spots. Kellen Lindstrom moved up 45 spots. Some guys who were, I wouldn't really class, especially Boo Carter, wouldn't classify him as a diamond in the rough, but AP, a nice little run here. Maybe Kellen Lindstrom could be categorized as that, but some of these Tennessee signees making a large leap here in the final on 300.
Yeah, it gets back to the senior tape, get the final film out there. And, I thought Peyton Lewis had a phenomenal senior year. I really think you could make a case for him being, that next great Tennessee running back. Like legitimate, every kid that walks in here, you think, yeah, maybe we'll see. But I think there's a lot of hope with him. I think that, I think Tennessee has a real chance to have hit on Peyton Lewis. I think he's a special player. Kellen Lindstrom, I think, is one that Tennessee evaluated early on. They got in on, they did a nice job, and, he's paid off for the staff because he's continued to kind of put in the weight, to work in the weight room. He's gotten bigger, he's gotten better. And that's one I wouldn't say he's going to play next year because Tennessee's so deep. But, if he really performs well, in practice, spends the year in the weight room, Hubs, he could be a huge addition to that 25 team as a redshirt freshman.
Yeah, no doubt. And again, I think the one common theme, Rob, you hear about this thing when you talk about Tennessee is a lot of early evaluations, a lot of trusting their own eyes, and a lot of making quick decisions going on guys, right? Peyton Lewis is a guy that, when he committed, everybody went, okay, they got a running back from Virginia, and now it's like, oh, they got a dude. And I think that's a credit to the recruiting office. I think that's a credit to Josh Heupel and this coaching staff for what they're doing and adjusting to the cycle, right? Because it all happens faster now, so your evaluations have to be on point, and it feels like Tennessee's evaluations, you're not going to get them all right, and you're not going to nail them all. But it feels like, Rob, that they've done a good job in their 3 years adjusting to recruiting at this level.
Yeah, and I know we're talking about the re-rankings, but also I give them also credit for not taking on a lot of dead weight in the transfer portal. You're not going to hit on 100% of guys, but when they've gone in there, they've found a lot of help at places they need. And I'm with you, Hubbard. I don't have anything to add, but I think you have to be impressed with the early evaluations. And AP, you can speak to this, but I think they do a great job of getting kids on campus early in the process and often. And that's changed so much over the years. And you've got to have, by the time those kids roll into their junior year, they've got to know what you're about, or at least, the top guys. There's going to be some late risers here and there always, but the guys that, Georgia, Alabama, Florida, LSU are going to be recruiting in the footprint of this conference. Those kids are getting identified earlier and earlier. And I think, Tennessee in the last couple of years under this staff has done a really good job of getting kids on campus early in the cycle, whether it's for camp or, a game or unofficial visits. I think you see a lot of that.
Yeah. Even a guy like Dylan Lewis, in this 25 class, not Rob's son, the other Dylan Lewis. But he's one that, continues to get more and more traction out there. Brent gets more and more offers as the day goes by, and you're like, oh, this one might be tough to hold on to, but that's what you want. You want other top teams to come after your guys because that means you're recruiting the right kind of players. Now, it can be a headache because you might lose one or two, but you still want that. So, they've done a nice job of getting in on kids. I think getting Van Doorslayer was a huge get for Tennessee, and a huge get for Abe for that tight end spot. So, this 25 class behind George has a chance to be pretty special. Now they have to go out and close out some of these players, go out and figure out a way to land David Sanders, Juan Gaston, Josh Petty, somebody in that triumvirate, right? If they get two, that'd be even greater, right? They've got to find a way to land, some of these receivers. You have a couple of kids in state that you already like, and that goes a long way because they're tight with George already. So, use your 5-star quarterback that you've got. He's a 5-star for me, so I don't care what, whatever it's shaked out to be here lately. He'll be 5-star quarterback for too long. Ride him, get behind him, and get out of the way.
Well, look, it's never going to be perfect, okay? And there's plenty of things you can sit here and be critical of in the recruiting of things. It's about who you get more than it's about who you don't get. My point is, you're seeing a lot of gets on some guys that they've done a good job of being first, being there before other teams got there, taking them before other teams were willing to take them. And I think it's got a chance to pay off for Tennessee with some of these guys. Now, if you sit back and go, man, we're great, and let's smoke a cigar and talk about how wonderful we're recruiting, you're going to get lapped by somebody. I mean, you got to work at it and build on it every day. But 3 years in, the defensive recruiting that they've put together, and the evaluations of things that they've done, I think is their best result at this point. Now, they got to recruit better on the offensive line. They got to have deeper pool of candidates to recruit from. We've talked about those things. I would regional recruit instead of just position recruit. There's a lot of things there. But again, 3 years in, where they're sitting right now, it's a pretty nice roster that this program's put together.
Yeah, no doubt. Bennett Warren moved up. Kind of going back to some of the guys that moved up. He moved up 3 spots, number 280 overall, 24th highest rated tackle in the class. And when we're talking about guys who are newly minted 5 stars or guys who rose up the recruiting rankings, there's always going to be a couple that drop a little bit. As AP had just alluded to, one service might have these guys higher, one service might have these guys lower. Just kind of is what it is. Caleb Beasley drops 22 spots. And Edwin Spillman and Jeremiah's Hurd fall out of the On3 rankings. Anything to that, AP, in terms of?
So did Merklinger.
Merklinger, yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, I think none of those guys are losing a star. And at the end of the day, for most fans, if you're not a top 30 guy, they want to know, are you 3, are you 4, are you 5? Are you a 4-star? Okay. It doesn't matter if you're a 4-star ranked 301, 4-star ranked 41. I mean, like, you're still a 4-star. And let's face it. I mean, like, look at James Pierce. I mean, like, this is an inexact science. We'll give Charles Power some love on this one because he did have him so high. But everybody, I mean, ESPN had him as a 3-star. And there have been others that maybe Charles had as, a 4-star that ended up being a 5-star, or a 3-star that ended up being a 4-star type player. Like, I mean, that's how you're never going to get them all right. It's an impossible job. You're just trying to evaluate with your own eyes. By the way, kudos to River Bailey for having James Pierce pulled up. Boom, as soon as I said it. That was fantastic. Like, it's just an inexact science. So, like, it doesn't really matter. Like, I mean, I'm with you. Some of these guys moved down. None of them, I believe, will lose a star. So, did you really know that somebody was 296 and now they're 312? I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're 4, and it's all the same.
Well, and what you're looking for if you're Tennessee is, regardless where the ranking is, Bennett Warren can't get here fast enough.
Yep.
Jordan Ross, you want him here as fast as you can get him here. Spillman, get those guys here. Finish that class off and get them all here and let them go to work. Because the beauty of the 24 season is they don't have to have a ton of impact guys out of this class. I mean, But all these guys have to develop over the course of the next year because they are going to be impact guys in 25. Some of these guys are going to be real impact guys in 25. So you got to get those guys here and go to work on them in the weight room and in the film room and their development. And that's where you want to get to, right? I mean, that's what you're trying to get your roster to, is that you're not banking on a bunch of freshmen the minute they arrive on campus. And Tennessee, over the course of the last 3 years, have put themselves in a much better position that way.
Never stops. The conversation over Volquest.com. Tennessee basketball, Tennessee football, Tennessee recruiting, and baseball starting right now in less than 3 weeks from opening day. You can find it all at Volquest.com on the General's Quarters and more. And a big thanks, as always, to our friends Exterior Home Solutions for making this coverage possible here on the Volquest podcast. Free estimate by picking up the phone and giving them a call today at 865-524-5888 or visiting them online at exteriorhomesolutions.com. For Rob Lewis, Austin Price, Brent Hubbs, I'm Eric Kane. Appreciate you guys for being here on the Volquest podcast.